Shalom, this is Avraham Shira from Eretz Israel. It is Erev Yom Kippur, 5,783 years on the biblical human calendar. It's a time of reflection, a time of consideration, a time of forgiveness. How do we get forgiveness? Rabbi Nachman teaches by giving forgiveness. So it is very easy to think about where I need to forgive people if I take responsibility for what I've done in the world. And if I haven't taken that responsibility, then it's going to be hard to forgive. Now, this little talk called Time and Atonement, we're going to try to link some very interesting ideas that span quite a few centuries of thinking. And bear with me, but I think we're going to get to some very healthy and helpful conclusions for this Erev Yom Kippur. So, of course, we have the most classic formula of time in God's eyes. Hashem haya, Hashem hoveh, Hashem yeh. God was, God is, and God will be. And our first mental conception is that God is in these areas of time. But it's not really that way, because He is creating those areas of time. So He is creating the past, He's creating the present, and He's creating the future. And so they're all one by Him, because He is not bound by time, He is the creator of time. That's a little hard for us to get our mind around it, but we're going to work on that, okay? But we have to understand God has no age. It's not that He's very old, or He's creating the world anew today, so He's one day old. He is above time, ageless. When you're attached to God, you become ageless, at least for that moment of attachment. Now, if you spend a lot of your life being attached to the ageless, chances are you're going to live a very long, healthy, happy life, because you're going to be above time, in the agelessness. The Time and Atonement also is going to suggest to us a two-way bridge to forgiveness. So let's begin with another idea of a definition, which Reb Nachman says that time is created by kindness. Not just God creates time, it's actually coming from His impulse of doing kindness. But as everyone knows, on the tree of life, you have 10 traits, and they're all different. They're all impulses of the human soul that has been given to us by the divine soul, because we're a paradigm of Him, made in His image. So time isn't just a creation of God, it's a creation of His kindness. Now, somehow often, when you reach, when you're young, you want to be old. When you're old, you want to be young. And when you're right in the middle, you don't know what you are. Right? But if we understand that it's all kindness, I think we can appreciate all stages of life in a different way completely. But what does it mean, actually, that God's kindness creates time? Well, because in Kabbalah, the energy of the soul starts in the head and then it moves into the body. And then from the body, it moves into the legs. And this area of our being, our head, is where we think. And thoughts are entities. Thoughts are entities that enter our mind, but they haven't yet entered time. So we have a thought, today's Erev Yom Kippur, and we have a thought of tshuva, a thought of wanting to return to God, a thought of wanting to be better than we have been. That's a good thing. That's a good thought. But it's not really in this world yet, because we haven't done anything about the thought. So from above our shoulders up, this whole region we call the mind and consciousness, that's where things are born. Ideas are born, but they're not yet real. So, to add on to our definition of time, we're going to say time is something that is a measure of the real. The measure of that which takes shape in space and can be measured by its duration in space. Now, when you commit an act of kindness, when you do something kind for somebody, you're taking an idea and you're bringing it into the real. You're crossing the bridge from the potential to the actual. All your good thoughts that you've had all your life, I can't even begin to count them, right? That haven't come true, that I haven't actualized, they've all stayed right up here. But they never went down the process through the heart and into the hands and into the feet to make us act on them. That's why if you get a good thought, do it right away. Don't even think about it. Just do it. When it comes to good thoughts, good actions, good deeds, good words to people. Because that's about how much time we have to get them into the world before our chance slips away. Now, most of us think of time as a measure of bodies in motion. Right? The earth around the sun is a year. The earth's full cycle is a month, and the moon's cycle around the earth is one day. So our concept of time is very bound to a very few number of objects that are spinning in space. But that's only one paradigm of the measurement of time. And so when we talk about forgiveness, we think, well, I thought of forgiving that person, but I was a little uncomfortable to call them. Or I thought of asking that person for forgiveness for something I did, and yet I didn't pick up the phone. Well, there you have it. The idea did not enter time. So the idea of forgiveness has to come into action. It cannot remain in the potential state and be considered forgiveness. Now on Yom Kippur, we're asking God to forgive us. But it's a little deeper a relationship when we understand God says, well, I want to forgive you, but I need you to forgive that person, and that person, and that person. The one who did this to you, I need you to forgive them, and then I can forgive you. See, because when we forgive other human beings, what we're really doing is saying, God, it's not about me and that other person. It's about me and you. Because you're creating that person. You're animating that person. You're giving that person their soul, and you're allowing them, giving them the potential to do things in the world that hurt other people. And if you become the address of that pain hurts. It's real. But just like King David, when he was cursed by Shimei ben Gera, he was being run out of Jerusalem by his own people. And Shimei was not a little guy. He was a businessman. He was a powerful force in the time and region of Jerusalem. And he came out throwing rocks and cursing King David. And his son, all his soldiers and sons said, kill him. He's chayav mita. You can't throw rocks at the king. Who do you think this is? King David said, no, God told him to curse me. See, King David understood. It's not about me and Shimei. It's about me and him. And when I understand that God sent Shimei, God didn't send Shimei to hurt me and curse me. God gave me Shimei in order to create the vessel that I would return to Jerusalem, that I would return to the throne of the house of David in Jerusalem, and I would return to my home and my children and everything else. And what was the merit to return to Jerusalem for King David? After he was run out by this low-life guy, Well, the merit was because he took the curses and he didn't let them bother him. See, when someone tries to hurt you and you don't let it bother you, you automatically get the inverse blessing. If someone tries to steal your money and you get over that and you say, well, God, I must have done something that God wanted to help me fix. And you know that new money is on the way when you forgive. And when we forgive, God forgives. So you see, the kindness is not just between us and people. Kindness is between us and God. We're actually showing God kindness by saying, God, I know that's from you. And I know you're perfect and you're not here to hurt people. And you're not here to, you are here to punish when it's absolutely necessary. But he gives us so many chances so that it's not absolutely necessary. And the greatest chance, of course, is tonight, Yom Kippur. Now, so I asked a rhetorical question. Well, if no one does any kindness anywhere in the world, does the world stop existing? If, like Rabbi Nachman says, the time is being created by kindness, then if people stop doing kindness, where's there going to be time? Where is the potential going to become actual? See, because good deeds, Pirkei Avot tells us that good deeds aren't just an action. It is a deposit in your spiritual bank account for the future. The energy of a good deed is not like the energy of a bad deed that just does what it does and then it causes what it causes and creates judgment. A good deed lasts forever because it just produces more and more good. And we see in the example of King David and Shimi ben Gera, but before he died, King David told his son Solomon, you keep Shimi in house arrest. That's his punishment. He gets to live and enjoy being a rich man in Jerusalem, but if he leaves his house and he ventures out into the world, then he's going to invoke the death penalty that I withheld from him before. So you see, as long as he followed the rules, he still could live. And because King David didn't want to produce evil in the world. He didn't want to produce judgment. Our job as human beings is to produce kindness, mercy, and forgiveness. That's our job, because those are the things that last. Now, do you like it? Would you build a house if you knew 2 weeks later it would be destroyed? Or how about 20 years later? Maybe, okay, I could live there for 20 years. Well, no, the idea is that we're here such a short amount of time. If we build something, isn't it best to build something that's really going to last? Isn't that really the goal? That if you could create one beautiful thing that lasted for 1,000 years, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't you create a mug, a little mug like that? And if you knew that 1,000 years later, archaeologists would find your mug and say, wow, look how they used to live back in the day. It's a 1,000-year-old mug. Now it's in a museum under special lights. You would probably create that mug and let it be buried in the earth, and the archaeologists will find it. See, we actually have this connection to immortality, but it's not the way we think. It's not, I get to live, me, me, me. No, it's the actions that we do that produce goodness, that ultimately produce a reflection of immortality from Hashem into the world. And those are acts of kindness, and that creates time, and that gives the potential for forgiveness. So what is forgiveness? Let's go a little deeper into that. Well, the word forgive, forgiving, this this cup of iced coffee is for giving. I made it to drink it, but maybe it's for giving, so I'll offer my wife a shluck, you know. But it's for giving. Now, when we think about forgiveness, well, we're thinking about, okay, I need forgiveness. I need to receive somebody else's forgiveness. I need to receive God's forgiveness tonight. Well, right now even. But, you know, there are times that are set aside for forgiveness. And then there's the constant relationship with the Creator that we want to always improve. And any moment could be a moment of mercy if we look for it. So forgiveness is this idea of giving something. Well, what are we giving when we're giving forgiveness? Well, first of all, when we give for forgiveness, what we're giving is vatranut in Hebrew. It is ma'aviro midotav is another way of saying in Hebrew. It's forgiving other people's trespasses. Okay, that's a famous word, I guess, a phrase. But literally, it means going beyond the letter of the law. Literally, forgiving means going beyond the letter of the law. You did something to hurt me, now you got to pay. And going beyond the letter means, okay, the law says you should pay, but I'm going to let that go for now. I don't need your money. I don't need, and the pain that you think you caused me, I'm dealing with God with that. See, because I know that you're only His messenger. So I'm not going to blame you. You became His messenger of something unpleasant. That's between you and Him. And the fact that I'm the recipient of the unpleasantness means that's between me and Him. But you and I don't have to fight about it. So forgiveness means going beyond the letter of the law. And God is saying tonight, I'm going on beyond the letter of the law with the Jewish people, because they've got a difficult situation for a lot of reasons. We're not going to go into that now. But one of the things that we're giving when we forgive really is pain. You see, because no one likes to hold on to pain. And pain has this thing about it. You know, pain sticks around as long as we don't deal with it. And you can feel pain for a day, and pain for another day, and a nighttime, and you can't sleep all night because you're angry, you're upset, you're hurt, you're disappointed, discouraged, depressed, all these things that we all have felt before. Until we deal with them, they just seem to stay around. So it seems like the wise choice is, well, let me deal with my pain. Let's look at this pain. I feel pain because so-and-so said something, insulted me. And they probably didn't even intend to insult. They just said something that I perceived as being insulting from my own preconception of the way the relationship should be. So forgiveness is I'm giving my pain. Where am I giving my pain? I'm taking this pain and saying, okay, God, this is not personal from, this other fellow. I'm going to say that this pain is from you to teach me something. And you're righteous, and therefore the pain that I'm receiving now from you is righteous. It's good. This pain is good right now. The minute you identify your pain as a teacher, as something good, it starts to get softer. It starts to get smoother edges. It stops to pound on you. And when I really understand, wow, the reason that so-and-so did something to me was to show me where I'm arrogant, or to show me where I'm impatient, or to show me where I'm judgmental. And so those people that bring me the pain are just the messengers of what I need to work on. Well, then I can be happy about it. Because they're teaching me things that I might not have seen. Most likely I hadn't seen, or I had forgotten about them, let's say. We have this funny thing about forgetting just the things that we need to forget, So if I turn you hurt me, you owe me, I turn that around and say, no, you didn't hurt me. God is teaching me through you. You're giving beyond the letter of the law to that person, because on the letter it says, no, they did something, they have to pay. But that letter of the law is only there to give us a fence, a boundary from which we go beyond. And then you forgive him. God forgives you. God turns the event into your teacher. You become wiser. The other person is thankful. And God is enjoying the fact that his creations are rising above the level, the black and white letter of the law. And that means we're becoming more godlike. Because every time we act above the letter of the law, we're becoming more godlike. And we're giving up the pain, we're dealing with it, we're analyzing it in light of this paradigm of it being a teacher, that it's not a bad thing. Now, how can you say this? I mean, I've dealt with people in my profession, with people that are quadriplegics, people that have been damaged by all kinds of things, and they have lifetime issues because of it. And how can you say that it's their lifetime teacher? But when we do the work of going deeply into why we're suffering, a friend of mine, we learned some Kabbalistic meditations, and he, for this very purpose, and in the meditation, he left his body, and he saw himself in heaven, and he saw himself being judged, and he accepted the judgment completely. And he came back and he said, Avraham, I accept being a quadriplegic. I accept it. It's exactly what needed to happen. Now, I asked a Holocaust survivor who was 3 years in Auschwitz, how do you accept 3 years in Auschwitz? And she said, who am I to judge? God. If we could all just come to that level of humility, who am I to judge God? And judge him to favor, because Hamatzdik, the person who judges God righteously, he's the righteous. Now, it's easy to say when you're not in pain. But when we're in pain, we have solutions here. We have the medicine right here. Judge God favorably. Judge the pain as your teacher. Turn it around. Forgive the other. And then the forgiveness comes. The heart opens. And then the understanding trickles into your brain of why it really happened in the first place. A classic example of this, of course, is Yosef HaTzadik, when Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers. Like, who ever heard of such a thing? And many, many years later, Joseph met his brothers, and they felt ashamed in front of him, as anybody would. And Joseph said, no, you intended what you did for evil, and God intended it for good. So there's a level where people are sunk in negativity or jealousy, like they were jealous of Joseph, where the only way that those people can be freed from their negativity is to do something negative and then deal with it. It's like God had to sell Yosef to get the brothers to see themselves. Stop being jealous of your brother. He's special, you're special in different ways. So he got the special coat, the coat of prophecy, the coat of many colors. He got the vision from his father Jacob. We cannot judge our brothers, just like we can't judge our neighbors, just like I can't judge people on Facebook 1,000 miles away. We're not capable of judging because we're not God. And so the brothers did what they did in order that they could fix themselves if they chose to be fixed. And Yosef had to deal with it so that he could be the person who came out of prison and became the viceroy of Egypt. Not for Yosef's greatness, but to save the people from famine. To save millions of people, not just the Jews, all the Egyptians and all the people that came to Egypt to trade and to buy wheat during the 7 years of famine. Now, a lot of people, they're clever. People are clever. They're going to say like this, well, why did God have to bring 7 years of famine? And you can start, that can go in a lot of directions. Well, maybe God was upset because Egypt had been serving idols for 500 years. And God has his own calculations. And if we don't trust that God is righteous, then we got the wrong God. If we don't believe he's righteous in his doings with us, then we might as well step out, find a new God. Now the Jews, well, they kind of like had it forced on them a little bit. God held the mountain over their head, said, receive this Torah or you're really in trouble. So really, he made the brothers sell Yosef, and the brothers, they had to learn what they had to learn, and they could have said, you know what? It worked out for the best. It must be that I don't see the big picture. So we give our pain back to God, and we accept responsibility for our actions. Because remember, the pain is the disconnection. It's not the action itself. The action is an action in the world. You sold your brothers into slavery. And by the way, people are still being sold by their brothers into slavery. Trust me. Somehow or another. But when we understand that there's a bigger picture and a greater cause, then we can let go of the controls. We can let go of the reins and let God drive the chariot of history to where it's going. And he's doing that right now. And when we forgive other people, the pain they cause us, we're being godlike. That's exactly why God created us. He created us to be godlike, but you know what? How do you become godlike? Well, first you got to start out not godlike. Isn't that clever? Humanity started out not godlike. We were wild animals at certain levels. That phrase, be careful with wild animals. Let's just say we didn't have the Torah, we didn't have the law, we didn't know how to behave, we didn't know what to worship or how to worship anything. So we worshipped everything. Turned everything into a God. But the point is, he wanted to fix us. He wanted to fix all of humanity, and he saw humanity couldn't do it alone. So he decided, I'm going to make a special people to be my representatives, to teach my teaching, so that maybe humanity will get the picture. And then we could become like him and justify creating us. And justify all the pain of all the centuries by creating a whole new world that's going to be coming down the road very soon. But to become godlike, we have to forgive. We have to. And we have to understand this teaching that we're talking about today. To be forgiven, we have to forgive. And to truly forgive, we have to understand why things are happening to us to teach us how to be better people at every level. Now, a lot of people blame God for their pain. They don't bother with the other people. They already have down this idea that it's all from God, and now I can blame God for the Holocaust and blame God for the Inquisition and blame God for everything. And therefore, I don't want to be religious. I don't even want to be Jewish. There's a lot of people like that out there. A couple of them seem... I get phone calls, people that are Jewish and Orthodox, and they hate it. And it's painful to them. And I understand the pain. Because I grew up without the God that the Bible is trying to represent. So what do we do when we blame God? Well, you see, the problem with that is that part of it's true. God is causing things to happen in order to teach us, to make us better, to help us grow, to expand. So that part of it's true. But he's not doing it with malice. He's not doing it with persecution. He's not doing it because he enjoys it. God forbid. He's doing it because this is how he designed us to change, to grow from within. So the word punish is a very dangerous word. And if we turn it around on God and blame him for everything, we're still not doing the other side of the equation, which is taking responsibility. God, you're right. That's all I got to say. God, you're right, and I deserve whatever happens. And actually, I don't deserve anything. Because as Pirkei Avot says, against our will we were created, and against our will we'll die. And against our will we go to work in the morning, and against our will we go home at night. So Yom Kippur, the rabbis describe it as a day of joy. And we're standing there all day in synagogue saying, about this, I'm sorry for this sin, and that sin, and that sin, and this sin. Al chet, al chet, al chet. I mean, it's endless. And we're supposed to be joyous? So either I need to change my definition of joy to match the rabbi's conception, or I don't understand how I'm supposed to feel when I say I'm sorry. See, because we associate, there's something very interesting. We associate saying I'm sorry as a very heavy thing. It's very heavy to go to somebody and say, I'm really sorry. But actually, it's the way you become lighter. It's the way you remove the heaviness of a relationship by saying, I'm sorry. And you'll notice that every single time you say, I'm sorry, the weight is removed. And I feel light again. And I feel ease. And I feel in connection with the person that I'm saying I'm sorry to. And therein, I believe, lies the joy of Yom Kippur. The joy of relieving the weight of all these things that have happened this year. Just to remove them and say, Hashem, it's enough. I want to start over. I want to start light. I want to start like a child. I want to start innocent and pure again. One more year, one more chance, one more Yom Kippur. And it works. And it keeps working. All year long it works. Even if we wait till today. I had a thought I wrote down that I wanted to share, and we're going to say goodbye because the sun is our clock and it's still moving, but this connects us to something very interesting in time and atonement. That if every time I'd say I'm sorry, right, I'm coming closer to Hashem, I'm coming closer to the agelessness. And that means I'm getting younger even as I get older. And that's the secret of the first beggar in the seven beggars story of Rabbi Nachman. And that's the secret of this planet too. I'll tell you how. Because this planet didn't begin as a molten mass of ore that got heated up in a big fusion reactor. It began in God's mind. As a plan, as a vision, as an experiment. To create a planet that would be the home of the human race. And whatever's happening to our home, we all know about the situation in terms of the health of the planet. But all of that is factored in to the greater vision of this planet being transformed into something much greater than it's ever been. And that was the final thought. God didn't create earth to stay the way it is. God created earth to give us a place to transform his physical creation into a spiritual one, and to create something that was never created before. And that never created before place, the new planet Earth, the new human race, that's going to be very new. It's going to be young again. So even as planet Earth gets older and we all get older, we're getting younger. Every time we lift off those suitcases and we throw them down in the airport, enough weight, right? Enough weight. I'm just going to say I'm sorry. I hurt people. It's true. So if I've hurt anybody out there in Facebook or in YouTube land or wherever it is that we reach, forgive me. And, I listen to these classes again to see what mistakes I make and the things I say that I shouldn't say. So we all have these relationships we need to fix, even if we don't know we need to fix them. We have the statement on Yom Kippur on the sins I didn't even know were sins, that I didn't know I committed. So, I think we've got the tools right here that we've been given by the masters. We just need to act on them, to do them, to bring forgiveness from the heart, from the mind to the heart, into the hands, into the mouth, and all of a sudden we create new time, new space, new relationship, and healing. So we'll see you after Kippur. We'll continue the work. God bless you all, with the heart, with the mind, with the hands, with the mouth, to forgive and be forgiven. Gomar Chatima Tova, as we say, should be sealed for life, for eternal life here and now. Because you can taste the eternity in the now when you're attached to the true now, the true eye of creation. God bless you all.